Maya Angelou once said, "People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel." In a world of machine learning, AI, bots, and improving software, it's how we make our clients feel through communication that will really set us apart. Today, I want to show you how to use proactive communication and how that can shift you from being just a bookkeeper or just an accountant to a trusted business leader. So let me tell you a story. It's 1999 and I'm pulling up in the car park of my first accountancy job in my little trusty D-Reg white Fiesta called Annie. She was a bit beaten up, she cost 500 quid. I grabbed my lunch and I start walking across the car park, and in the prime position, as always, was the managing partner's McLaren sports car. I walk through the front door and say good morning to the 3 clients that are sitting there eagerly waiting the meetings with their accountants. I walk up the stairs and the smell of the coffee fills my nostrils, and I can hear the sound of the secretaries typing away and the printers whirring, because yes, this was before email. There is a sea of glass offices, and I walk across to my desk and I reach down and pick up my pilot case. It's a big old audit case. I put my lunch in there, I put my adding machine with the till roll in there, and I put the branded accountancy pad and my stationery in there. I give a nod to my colleague and we go to a side room to discuss the client we're going to be meeting that day. We talk through the client, the industry, who we're going to be meeting, because we're about to do an audit. See, I was an audit semi-senior. I was 19 years old. And at that point, it was only May 2000 that the audit threshold went up to £1 million. So actually, most of our clients needed to be audited. We decided that we'd take his Mercedes rather than Annie to the clients, and we drive there. And when we get there, we're met by the receptionist. We're taken to a nice big boardroom, and the managing director, the finance director, and the head of accounts come and meet us. And I take them through the plan for the next 2 weeks of the audit, who I'm going to need to have access to and speak to, which areas of the factory I'm going to need to audit. And I explain to them how I am going to share the results with them. Now, I'm a mother of young adults and teenagers, and I think back to that time and I think, who the hell did I think I was? How did I have so much confidence? But the thing is, it was borrowed confidence. It was borrowed confidence from my big pilot case, from the McLaren sports car, from all those secretaries back in the office. It was also the systems and processes that I was following. I had a very clear path that I had to take. Fast forward a couple of years, and I was married, and I was pregnant with my first son. I've only got one son, my first child. And I spoke to some colleagues as I was getting bigger, getting ready to go on maternity leave, and thinking, what was I going to do? Because this audit lifestyle was not really going to fit. I was travelling all over the country, spending weeks on end at different companies. I knew that this wasn't going to be right for me as a new mother. Someone said to me, well, what mothers do when they can't be proper accountants is become bookkeepers. So you can see where I get my passion for bookkeeping from. But at the time, I was really grateful for the advice. I was really excited. I was excited for self-employment. All my family were self-employed. That didn't really scare me. I was excited for the flexibility. And I was confident in that moment because I still had everyone around me. And I thought, I can make this work. So I had Daniel, and I think he was about 3 weeks old, and I remember I lost all the confidence. I lost all my gumption. Everything that I had when I sat around that boardroom table had gone. I felt less than. I felt less than my colleagues back at the office, and I felt less than my friends who were finishing off their university degrees. See, the thing is, I'd swapped the boardroom for a baby changing table, and I'd swapped the pilot case for a baby bag. And I felt really low. So I started advertising my services to local accountants. I didn't want to go direct to clients. And I advertised my services at about £11.50 an hour. Now, when I was working in the accountancy firm, my charge-out rate was up to £75 an hour. I saw myself as a data inputter, a bank reconciler, a behind-the-scenes resource. And that's how I communicated to everyone that I spoke to. I communicated from that place. I wonder if any of you have ever had a prolonged period of time in hospital. I have, quite a few. And you'll get settled in, and then there'll be times when a nurse will come round periodically, and she'll put something in your ear and test your temperature and make a note. She'll put a cuff around your arm, take your blood pressure, write it down. Maybe she has a little piece of paper in her pocket and she writes it out. And then maybe she'll put the thing on the end of your finger and measure your saturation and write it all down. And she won't say anything. And you sit there, am I dying? What's going on? But they don't say anything. Because you have to wait for an expert to come and explain these things to you. The thing is, we know in reality that that nurse knows exactly what's going on. She actually could tell you the best course of action to take, how to make yourself better and get yourself out of hospital quicker, but she doesn't communicate. That nurse could interpret those numbers and really clearly tell you what the outcome is, predicted. I speak to so many bookkeepers and accountants that do exactly this. They've got all that information at their fingertips, but they keep stum. They don't talk to anyone about it. They can see what's going on in the business, and they could add some value, but they don't. It took me about 15 years to figure out that my knowledge wasn't my superpower. It's what I did with the information that really mattered. So, how do we start to build confidence to communicate our true value to clients? I want to take you through 5 steps. Number 1, I think the first thing we need to do is give ourselves permission to work with the right clients. I don't know about you, but over the years, I've worked with some horrors, and I didn't feel that I had the choice. People were recommended to me, referred to me, and I would take them on. If they were willing to pay the price, I would take them on. When I built my final practice, I decided that I wanted to like the clients that I was working with. I wanted to be friends with them. How dare I? Who dare I think that I could have friends as clients? But I thought, do you know what? I'm going to try it. So I said that I'd only have clients if they were willing to be friends with me on Facebook. Because if they weren't willing to be my friend and get to know me as a real person, then we weren't going to be a good fit. I went to visit. I didn't have an ideal client. That was literally my first, my ideal client was going to be someone that was friends with me on Facebook. I went to a local beauty salon and I was having a treatment done. And while she was torturing me, she was talking to me about the fact that her VAT return was late and that her accountant spoke to her in language she didn't understand, and she was extremely stressed out. And I said to her, I'd love to help her out and just teach her what was going on. Not take her on as a client, just help her out, because she was really stressed. I went back a week later, sat with her, worked through things, and just spoke in English, and she understood what was going on. What I didn't realise was that she was in a community of salon owners that were all trying to build good businesses, and she went in there and raved about me. And she said, it's the first time I've had a conversation with someone in finance that didn't make me feel stupid. And I was like, oh, I think I found my people. So I then spoke to them. That person, she was my ideal client avatar. I could speak to her directly. And funny enough, she was a friend of mine on Facebook. And actually the group she was in was a Facebook group, and they started to communicate with me on there. And I really do think that meant I was able to have better conversations with them because I felt more comfortable. If you think about brands that we work with, they're not afraid to target who they want to target. You think about clothes shops. I went shopping recently. I tried to buy something in Zara. I'm definitely not their ideal client. They want a tiny Spanish girl who's very, very tiny. But if you go to other places, I'm like, oh, this feels good. So why do we feel that we are not allowed to really hone in on who we can really help? And also, if you do that and you think, actually, I've picked wrong, it's fine to change. Think about Jaguar, the car brand recently. We thought that we knew who their ideal client was. And recently, they've just had a whole new brand, whole changed, and they're changing. And that's fine. You get to do that. You get to choose. It's your business. Number 2, the right processes. As I said earlier, I was able to sit down at that table and communicate very clearly the steps of the process to that managing director and finance director because it was there and I'd followed it before. So that gave me confidence. And I know we talk all the time about systems and processes and how we should do them. But I can tell you that when I nailed my onboarding process, I had a 26-point onboarding process for my clients. Actually, behind the scenes, we called it our client training program. How are we going to train these clients to be the best clients possible? When I had that, not only did the onboarding get better and the actual client relationship and retention get better, but it improved my discovery calls and improved my marketing because I had so much more confidence about where we were going next. So if you don't have that nailed, I would really highly recommend that. Think about the confidence you have when you walk into a McDonald's and you order a Big Mac. You know you're going to get it, and that's all run by teenagers. So how do you make your business like McDonald's when it comes to processes? Number 3, the right platforms. How many times have you thought, "Cool, that client's a pain, they never respond to me, they don't do this, they don't do that, they don't answer my queries, they only answer one part of the email, I ask them 3 questions." Maybe we need to change how and the platforms that we are communicating on. So, as I was saying, I was working with salon owners and they very rarely replied to emails. But I spoke to them and said, "What are you doing all day? Are you by a computer at all?" No, they've got their phones in their hands, in between appointments, they're on their phones, but they don't even have the email app on their phone, or they wouldn't know how to use it. So I started using WhatsApp with them. Now, I know that there's other options out there, and my practice now feels quite old, but I'm just saying, find people and be where they're at. Because I was able to drop them a quick voice note, one thing at a time, and they would respond. I was also able to add other team members in, so someone was always able to respond to them, and it didn't feel like they just had me. They had a whole team to look after them. And we got the answers that we needed. Being on the right platforms as well, like with Facebook, like I mentioned, and being visible, gives them more certainty that you're always around. I wanted to eradicate the thing where I used to take on a client and they say, "I never hear from my accountant, I only hear from them once a year, and it's always really late, and I never know where I'm at." So I thought, how can I be more in front of them more frequently? So being on Facebook was good because they got to see me in multiple places. In COVID, I set up a Facebook community for my clients, and I went live in there every day and gave them updates or told them something. So I created a community with my clients, which they adored. And we need to think about people that we don't have regular communication with, but we feel like they're always around. I like to think of someone like Dermot O'Leary. I've never spoken to him, but I feel like he's always going to be there. He's going to be on This Morning or on the radio, on X Factor or something. He's always going to turn up. So how do you appear like that? Because that gives your clients confidence, and they can never say, "Oh, I never hear from them," or "I don't see them." So maybe where are you showing up on multiple platforms? Number 4 is the right questions. See, I don't know about you, but I always focused on having the right answers. For years, it drove me mad, like, I don't know enough, I need to know more. But actually, the person asking the question is the person that is controlling the conversation. See, when I went into that room, I was the one telling them what I needed and asking them questions about their business. So I was controlling the conversation. I worked as a finance director once for an events company that had lots of marquees and things. And it was run by loads of guys, and they were all from the army. They were all into rugby. They were all very brash, and they didn't always speak very nicely about the women in their lives. And sometimes I'd sit at that boardroom table, And I knew that they didn't understand the numbers, but I had to get on a level with them. And so I used to ask them questions. Because I didn't have the answers, it made them feel good, but we come up with the answers together. And it really did help to create that understanding that I was, I can sit across the table from you and I don't need to have all the answers, but it's about who's asking the right questions. If we ask questions as well around goals, by having friends or having my clients as friends on Facebook meant I could see when they were going on holiday and what they were doing. I could learn more about their lives, and that meant I can connect with them on that kind of more personal level and find out what the goals were and talk about the kids and talk about the pets or whatever it was, and really connect the numbers to the goals. It's what the numbers mean to the business owner that means that you can start having those really great conversations. And number 5 is the right network. When I realised that I wasn't or didn't need to be the guru, the know-it-all, that actually it was okay if I just knew somebody that knew the answers. See, years ago, we used to have bank managers. And you used to be able to go and see a bank manager, open up a bank account for a new business, and he'd tell you, or she would tell you about the local accountant, where you can get insurance, about the local networking group. They were that person that had all of this information. We have a great opportunity now as bookkeepers and accountants to be that person for our clients. And when they know that you are the person that knows somebody that can help you out, that can really boost the value that you're bringing. I had a client once who was spending a lot of money on a machine for her salon. And I was talking to her about the return on investment of this machine because it didn't seem to add up. Something wasn't working. And she said, oh, it's broken. And I said, but you're spending all this money. She said, oh, I can't get out of this lease. Well, I don't understand legal things, but I had a solicitor friend and I just asked them to review it. He gave some really easy tips. We was able to write a letter and we managed to get her out of that lease, saving her tens of thousands of pounds. So who do you have in your network that you can call upon to help bolster your value? So just to recap, get yourself the right clients, get the right processes, choose the right platforms, ask the right questions, and build yourself the right network. Remember, people will never forget how you made them feel. Make them feel understood, supported, and inspired. In a world of AI and automation, it's the human connection that matters the most. Thank you.